Well, we reached about 2 million people this morning and it went really well. I felt like I did the animals the justice they deserve.
When we're looking at issues of injustice, we always look at it through the eyes of the victim, not the oppressor, okay? Animals are having their throats slashed open for an unnecessary reason, okay? Farmers are sending them on trucks to slaughterhouses. We don't need them to survive or to be healthy. We can eat plants.
From Jay-Z and Beyonce to J-Lo and Ariana Grande, being vegan, it seems, has never been so popular. In fact, 1 in 5 of us are now considering ditching meat, eggs, dairy and all animal produce.
Some farmers, though, say they feel threatened by what they call militant vegans who've sent them death threats, stormed their farms and are making their lives hell.
Okay, so the media have recently labelled vegans as militant, as extremists, sending death threats. They put my picture up with these claims without evidence. Okay, they're also attacking my character in these newspapers, and it's interesting that they are disregarding what's happening to the animals and more interested in labelling vegans with these names.
So we're joined now by vegan campaigner Jerry Carbstrong and dairy farmers Johnny and Dulcie Crickmore. So welcome all of you. Thank you very much for coming in. So Jerry, the last time I heard you was on the Jeremy Vine show in an interview. It got very heated.
It did.
Jerry Carbstrong joins us, a vegan activist. Good afternoon.
Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
I don't know whether you're angry today or just generally about the whole thing.
Too heated for you?
Well, I think the passion was justified. I mean, Jeremy, a nice gentleman, but I don't think he's spent as many hours as I have out the front of the gas chambers where they lower pigs into carbon dioxide gas and they thrash in their very last moments.
Ham is a euphemism that actually come from the flesh of a dead pig, but
What would you rather call it?
I'd like you to call it the dead body of an animal who didn't want to die.
So he had a ham sandwich.
He did, and he made a point of pointing that out to me. But that's fine. I mean, people are going to ridicule something they don't understand. And if he'd seen what I'd seen, he would not be so insensitive about it.
What do you think about that, Klaus?
I think it's good that you've highlighted the fact that you've seen what you've seen.
Yeah.
And he probably, let's face it, he probably hasn't.
No.
And that's what you want. That's the message you
The
want
message,
to get across, right?
if he had seen what I'd seen, he wouldn't be making fun of it. I mean, then that's a very important point. I think that's what we have to understand as vegans and as activists. They haven't seen what we've seen, so we have to be understanding of that. And I felt like maybe in that moment with him, I wasn't as understanding of that because, you know, I was running pure emotion and passion.
And Johnny and Dulcie, let's speak to you because you're a Fen Farm in Colchester. You farm milk butter.
Sorry, it's Bungay in Suffolk.
Sorry, okay, correct. And milk, butter, cheese, 3 generations of family. But you find that the campaigning over the last few months has got definitely much more intense, you've noticed.
Well, for us personally, not really. We've gone about getting on with farming and doing what we do, and then it just kind of everything changed about a week ago when we just put a nice post out on Facebook.
Stop right there. A nice post on Facebook. They took a photo of 3 newborn calves, okay, and they were parading it around on Facebook saying, hey, look at these newborn calves. Now, what the public don't know and what vegans do know is that those calves are about to be stolen from their mother. Stolen, and they're posting it around and expecting people to be okay with it.
What was the post?
We had triplets for the first time ever in our farm.
Calf triplets.
Calf triplets.
Yeah.
Very rare occurrence
not Dulcie.
with a cow. Yeah.
And what was the reaction?
Good for the first day. Lots of nice comments, and it's just a fun little story. And then all of a sudden, one vegan quite nasty comments appeared on there, and before we knew it, it just over the next 24, 48 hours, it just erupted into this thousands upon thousands of views and vegan comments.
The dairy industry is single-handedly responsible for more child kidnaps, more murders, more exploitation than any other industry on earth, okay? This is an immoral industry and needs to be left in the Stone Ages along with all the other immoral things we used to do.
Of really, really horrible
And
things.
also quite threatening towards you and your own family.
It just got worse and worse. There was a few of our supporters and customers who put nice comments on there about the calves to begin with, and there was abuse aimed at them for buying our products, and then it just got worse and worse, and words like murderers, rapists, all of these kind of things started coming onto our feed.
Well, you have used those words, that farmers can be compared to rapists and
Okay,
murderers.
so I want to...
What was going through my mind is that this is live TV and I've got one opportunity here to do the animals justice.
I want to just publicly say that I condemn any death threats and any name calling. That's not the way I advocate. But I think we need perspective in this situation. Now, the dairy industry are responsible for separating families. When these calves are born, they are taken away from their mother, okay? That milk will be given to human beings, okay? Now, those calves, if they're born a boy, they'll be bolt gunned in the head, sometimes on their first day of life, okay? And the female calves will suffer the same fate as their mother, which is forcible impregnation. They're not getting pregnant naturally, forcefully. A fist into the cow's anus, okay? They harvest the semen from a bull, and we all know how they do that, and then they inject that semen into the cow, okay? And then when she's pregnant, they take her calf away from her. And this is why they call it, you know, vegans might call it kidnap. And when she can't produce milk anymore, she's murdered for her body, okay? A mother.
And so the rape is the insemination?
I think they don't even know why they do what they do, okay? They don't even know why they're doing it.
It's habit, tradition.
Yeah. I know why I'm speaking for animals. I want to help them. They are using animals because they want to make money from them. Okay, two completely different things.
Well, it's forcible impregnation, isn't it? If it was anyone, it's the victim. If it was a human being, we'd call it what? What would we call it?
But it's not a human being, it's a cow.
It's forcible, it's sexual abuse.
So I just want to check, and just being absolutely sure, there is no difference in the laws of nature for you than there would be between human and animal form.
If we're sexually violating a sentient being, just like us, they experience consciousness just like us, we're sexually violating them against their will, that is immoral. They cannot give consent for this.
So how do you answer that then, as farmers?
How do you answer that, what I just said? We are sexually violating them against their will. They cannot give consent for that. How do they answer that?
Did you think about giving them a stare in the eye?
Well, the thing is, Klaus, he didn't answer that. They did not address what I said.
Let's play it.
I find that really offensive. Sorry, Dos. The word rapist, to use that word for inseminating a cow, I feel is wrong.
What I actually said was exactly what happens, and
that's what they're offended by.
That's what they're offended by.
So he's more offended by me explaining what he actually does than actually doing it.
I think what you need to understand, being a dairy farmer, and what actually really happens on the farm, is that there's a few reasons why we inseminate cows. First of all, the danger to human beings. So imagine you have a lot of bulls on your farm. It can be very dangerous. We have students on our farm, children come to visit the farm. Imagine bulls, you know, and a lot of people do get killed in the course of a year. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that we on our farm, we choose that the semen, what we choose to buy to impregnate the cow, leaves smaller calves, so the cow has an easy calving.
Sorry, I find it hard to have a straight face with him saying, I buy semen to impregnate a cow.
That's the second reason. The third reason is the cow, the breeding of the bulls we use leaves calves which are stronger and actually can have a longer and better life.
Okay, so he's named off 3 reasons, but I haven't yet to hear a single justification.
So you think that being called a rapist is immoral, but the act of sticking your hand inside of a cow without their consent isn't immoral?
I think it's important to talk about the terminology here, because one thing that's been very apparent to us, so one of our posts has inadvertently gone viral, and this is what has made the tabloids and global news this week.
Talking of the tabloids that you were front and centre of, we were talking earlier about your approach being quite direct and forthright, but you made a really good point by saying it's because of that that's got you on mainstream TV.
It has, and that is why I've gone viral in the tabloids, because I'm very direct with what I say. I don't beat around the bush at all. I say exactly how it is, okay? And in this society, I've noticed people don't like to be direct. They like to hide around things. They like to sugarcoat things.
There are 3 words that are consistent in a lot of these comments from vegan activists. Rape, murder and slavery, okay?
What happens to your cows?
Would you mind if I finish?
What happens to your cows when they cannot produce milk anymore? For you.
Would you mind if I finish this sentence? I'm very, very happy to address. I'm very happy to address all aspects of this, but would you mind me finishing the sentence?
They didn't address that. I said, what happens to your cows after they can't produce milk for you anymore? I'm happy to address that. She never addressed that. This is one of the things they're hiding.
They are. I'm happy to address that. We do that in a few, and then they never do.
They never do?
They never do.
Okay. Because 50% of the beef in the UK comes from spent dairy cows, spent mothers. Okay, they won't address that.
And you've seen this stuff. I mean, I've been to a couple of saves, but I haven't seen it like what you've seen it.
Yeah, well, I've waited out. I've waited out.
In the last year.
Okay, so I waited.
Direct action.
Yeah. Well, Well, being at the front of slaughterhouses when truck after truck arrives with spent dairy cows in there, okay, with their udders distended, okay, just they're emaciated from being just exploited right up to the very point of being just no use to a farmer, okay? And the only thing they have to look forward to is the kill floor, okay? And you can hear them bellowing out when they're getting prodded down the line, mooing, like bellowing out, and no one's listening to them, okay? They're screaming for mercy and no one's listening to them. And dairy farmers will not talk about this, okay?
So when people ask you, like on the news and on TV, you seem to be a vegan extremist. Why are you so extreme? This is the kind of thing you say, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I'm going to say, okay? Because they cannot hide from this fact. All those cows are going to the slaughterhouse. All of them. All those dairy cows. They might show you the green pasture picture. It's all propaganda, okay? And we're the truth. We're speaking the truth. Okay, it's going to cut through all of that.
These three words, rape, murder and slavery, are consistent. Now, these are words that, first of all, are fairly inaccurate when applied to our farming practices. Rape is an act of sexual predation.
She's playing word games. Well, let's call it whatever you want. Call it a polka dotted dress. It's still what it is. You know, the act. We don't even have to use words. I could just show you a video of what happens to cows. We don't even have to speak. That's enough.
Murder is an act of one human being purposefully killing another human being. Slavery is the enslavement of one human being by another human being. Okay. Now, I think that the use of these words, whilst...
So you're playing word games. Let's talk about the act. Let's talk about the act. You're taking an animal's life against their will.
What do you think the average non-vegan at home watching this would be thinking?
Well, I think some of them might have thought she had a point until I refuted her ridiculous claims that words are actually worse than the action of hurting an animal. I mean, I called her out for playing word games, basically.
What is that? Is that moral, to take an animal's life against their will? Call it murder, call it taking an animal's life against their will, okay? How is that moral? It's not humane to take an animal's life.
Can I just talk about the terminology?
Let's talk about the act.
Can I just say, animals kill animals, though?
Yeah, but
so how does that... I mean,
animals rape each other in the wild too. We cannot point to nature and say that that's moral, okay? We're a civilised society. To take someone's life against their will is savagery.
Actually, I think...
Would you agree? Do you think it's humane?
It's not my point. I'm just...
I think when you...
It's not my point. I'm just...
I think...
Her face then. Would you agree?
Yeah.
She probably agreed.
Don't ask me. I mean, you just gave her a little logic.
Yeah.
And she probably deep down agrees.
I mean, the appeal to nature fallacy is the most basic of logical fallacies. I mean, to point to nature and say what happens in nature is moral is insane in itself, because we could use that to justify killing each other, raping each other, all these things that happen naturally.
You have to look at nature. You have to look at the human being. You have to look at the last 200,000 years and how we've evolved and what we've become. We have billions of people in this world, and everyone has to be fed. We, as human beings, eat meat and vegetables like many other species. 270-odd species on this planet eat meat, of which all of those animals very often actually eat another animal in a far worse way than actually we
don't need to for our health. We don't need to. It's unnecessary.
Just biologically, and in our development as a species, we've grown canine teeth.
Where? Show me yours.
This is where he thinks he's actually a lion. This is how cleverly he's been programmed to believe he actually has big lion-like canines.
But the canines were developed to chew meat,
it's
to bite
unnecessary
meat.
to eat meat to be healthy.
I developed teeth to do that.
At this point, what were you thinking? How do you think you're faring against them? It was like 4-1, I think.
It was like educating 4 children that have never heard this information before.
So why have I developed teeth to do that?
Just because you can eat an animal doesn't make it moral to do so, okay? We can be healthier eating plant-based foods. This day and age, don't look 100,000 years ago when we had to do it to survive. This day and age, it's unnecessary to put innocent beings inside of a gas chamber or into a slaughterhouse, okay?
Is there any for you guys here, 2 very different arguments, is there any middle ground at all?
Yes, there is. Leave the animals alone. Animal liberation is the middle ground. Okay, for me, vegan world, nothing less.
And what would happen to him?
What would happen to farmers?
Yeah, we want them to farm plant foods, okay, that don't scream in terror in a gas chamber, okay, that aren't sentient beings that deserve moral respect and their own liberty, okay. The animals do not have a choice in this.
At the end of the day, we have to think of the real victims here. We can't, wipe everyone's bottom for them. The animals are going into slaughterhouses. This needs to be addressed first, and then the farmers, hopefully, will move into more ethical alternatives.
Does the animal which is in the wild, who gets pulled down by the lion or the tiger, does that?
What's the craziest attempt to justify animal exploitation that you've experienced and heard in the last, say, year? Because you're in the street doing this, every week.
I think one of the most insane is that plants feel pain too. I mean, we are comparing sentient, feeling, living, breathing animals to a carrot. And I don't think there's anything more disgraceful than that.
Just because lions kill in nature, that doesn't justify killing each other.
We live in a world where there's always going to be death. There's always the food chain.
It feels as though the two of you are so polar opposites that there will never be a way.
I think that we're not actually as opposite.
We're not opposite. We're very, very absolutely fine with vegetarians and vegans. Dulcie's actually a vegan when she was a child.
I respect vegetarians and vegans. I respect vegans, but just respect my choice to do this to animals. No, I mean, I respect, people that don't go out assaulting other human beings as well. But that doesn't give me a justification to go out and assault people. I mean, he's asking for immunity for his actions because he somehow respects vegans. I mean...
She chose... Sorry, yeah.
No, I think as farmers ourselves, and I grant that we are actually, we're probably on the higher welfare end of farming. It's a scale, it varies from country to country, and it varies within this country as well. But our personal opinion, I think, is that you cannot... Our personal opinion...
So this part here is interesting because she has no argument and she realises that.
Like you said, you cannot compare a predator in the wild to a prey.
I think we sort of covered that point. Just one final thing, Zoe, if I can. What about those long-standing farming communities, the communities that have been built up around farming, all the people involved in farming?
When we're looking at issues of injustice, we always look at it through the eyes of the victim, not the oppressor, okay? Animals are having their throats slashed open for an unnecessary reason, okay? Farmers are sending them on trucks to slaughterhouses. We don't need them to survive or to be healthy. We can eat plants.
Okay, all right.
Last one goes to Joey. Boom.
Yes. I'm very happy I got that out so succinctly.
That was over, and then what happened between you and the farmers? Did they say, they presume they went to break?
So what happened after that is I gave Phil and Holly a card and said I sign up to Challenge 22 and told them to watch Land of Hope and Glory. Okay, and that's what happened.
What did the farmers do?
I shook his hand. He reluctantly shook mine, but that was it.
Then he stood up and went your separate ways.
We went our separate ways.
And then what? And then did they taxied you there? Did they taxi you
They
back?
chauffeured us there and back.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you very much. Right, lots more to come. We'll see you after this break.
I didn't start this to become some celebrity vegan. That's not why I did this, and that's not why I continue to do this. I started this because I wanted to help change the world and help animals, okay? And that's still my intention now.
Mm-hmm. I've been watching your channel for years.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of people probably haven't. They've maybe only the last year heard of you. Can you talk about where you've come from in terms of the evolution of your channel? And because a lot of your older videos used to be more fun, let's say, and now seems to be really, really serious.
Yeah, I think I was finding the direction of my channel. I'm also glad that this popularity didn't happen back then, because I was still finding myself and I was still developing, approachable personality. I feel like I was a lot more aggressive back then. I was swearing a bit in my videos. My videos weren't as serious as they are now. I feel like I can articulate myself a lot better now, and I feel like I'm a lot more focused now on the message, and so everything happened as it should.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your background. You've come from a lot of adversity.
Yeah.
Let's just briefly talk about that journey.
Okay, so for around 12 years of my life, I fell down the wrong tracks, okay, with substance abuse and hanging around gangs. These gangs then turned organised, and I started to get very heavily involved with this scene, and it landed me in prison for a firearm possession charge, which was a blessing in disguise, because this is where the epiphany happened and where the transformation happened.
And that was 3 years ago, right?
This was around 4 or 5 years ago.
So what you're doing is you're saving animals' lives, but really you've saved your own life in many ways by doing this.
I felt like someone's watching over me, because many times, I should have been, killed, or, I didn't know what was going to happen to me, but I feel like I've been given this chance. I feel like I've been given this chance now and you know, I'm not going to let that slide. So
let's talk about the movement in general. Seems to be really flourishing. Have there been any events in the last few months that stand out and really give you hope?
Oh my God, any events in the last few months? So many. Ed's been going viral on Facebook, which is amazing. Nearly every one of his videos is going viral. Earthling Ed. I can't put my finger on one thing. Everyone's kicking massive goals, which is amazing. Everyone's finding their feet. You guys, James, Ed, and just every single activist that's out there in the Save movement, the Anonymous for the Voiceless, everyone's finding their feet and they're becoming more vocal.
We talked about your rise in popularity. Do you think that has been the result of you becoming more articulate and eloquent, or do you think it's a reflection of the movement growing?
I think it's a combination of me evolving as a personality, okay, and becoming a full-time activist, okay. Before I was working to get money, and then I opened up a Patreon account, and that has helped me focus full-time on this. And everything happened together. So the evolution of myself and being a full-time activist. Nice.
Well, I'll link Joey's channel down below. Check it out for lots of street activism and what kind of stuff you got planned.
Well, I'm doing a series called the Vegan Prophecy series, and it's basically just sound bites of all my speeches, everything that happens on the streets, the ups and downs, the highs and lows, the evolution of my activism, and just changing the world as we go.
Thank you for everything you do, brother.
Thanks, brother.